Hello students, in this question, two identical capacitors, resistors and inductors are applied along the edge of a tetrahedron as shown in this figure here, and between these 2 points we have applied a AC source of maximum voltage V0 and frequency omega, right? You have to determine the maximum value of current that is crossing or that is coming from this AC source, right? So the value of omega naught and r is actually given such that your calculation becomes easy. There is a sort of symmetry in this diagram here, because if you try to see that there are some triangles forming in this tetrahedron, right? So you can see here that in all these triangles, all the elements that you have is same, right? There is one resistor, one capacitor and one inductor, right? So there is some sort of symmetry, but that symmetry actually vanishes as soon as you put a source between these 2 points, right? Because this triangle will have different circuit than this triangle or this triangle. Of course, there is still symmetry left between these two triangles, right? They are still identical. But the solution I'm proposing to you is does not depend upon the symmetry, etc. It involves a method that can be useful in the cases where there are some kinds of closed circuits or closed loops that are forming in the circuit, right? So in this case, the circuit diagram is going to contain the complex numbers because we have inductor and capacitors also. So let's first find the reactances of these inductor and capacitors. So if you just substitute the value that are given in terms of omega and r, you will be very easily getting this XL and XC, and the magnitudes of these two are actually equal, R and R. So you are getting this iota times R as inductive reactance and minus iota time R as capacitive reactance, right? So values are same. What will we do next? First, we will just put down this point in the same plane as the bigger triangle here, and we can see that this diagram actually changes to this particular diagram. Now, if I try to solve this problem using the junction law and using the current results, instead of that, we can do one thing also, that in all the closed loops, we can think of these currents that are actually for one particular loop only, right? And of course, in a one closed loop, the current will be same and in the same cyclic fashion, right? So in all of these four loops that we have formed here, this first loop is here, this first loop is for this, the second loop is for this triangle here, this closed loop, the third loop is for this triangle here, and the fourth loop of course is for this triangle here or this closed loop, right? So if I just treat this closed loop separately, we can assume these currents here, but actually we see some elements are shared between two loops, right? So just as you can see here, that this resistor is shared between loop 1 and loop 2. So the effective or the net current in this loop along this direction will be superposition of the currents in those two closed loops, right? In this question, the current in the rightward direction in this resistor will be, because of this lower loop, that will be equal to I1 along the same direction, and because of this upper triangular loop, the current I2 will be towards the left. So of course the net current towards the right in this resistor can be taken as I1 minus I2. The benefit of using this loop method is that we get rid of this applying junction law, and actually it becomes very easier to write the current in any element of the circuit just using the superposition of the currents in these loops, right? So we'll be just writing the standard net potential or sum of the net potential equal to 0 equation in all these loops. So of course in the first loop we have this equation here, right? So from the first loop we will be getting this value I1 minus I2 equal to this much. So this is my first equation. Very similarly, if I just take minus R common, I am just writing the equation of potential drops across the all the elements in one closed loop. So I'm now taking the second loop here. In the second loop, we'll be writing something like that, and this will come into this part, right? So we are getting the second equation from the second loop. Similarly, if I try to write this equation of potential drop in the third loop and in the fourth loop. Actually, in the third loop and in the fourth loop, if you see clearly, these equations are actually coming same. These are the same equations, right? Here it is I3 minus 4, here it is I4 minus I3, here it is minus and plus. So these are identical equations. So this was a wasted effort, but this was to show you why it is an identical result or identical equations, because we had already seen that there is a symmetry between these third and fourth loops. So of course the result are going to be same, right? So now what? We have got three useful equations. The fourth equation is of course identical to the third one. So of course we can use the second equation, and we have to, here if you see in the first equation, I1 minus I2 equal to this much, right? And we have to determine the actual I1 value. So I1 is what we are aiming for. So we have to somehow eliminate this I2 or determine the value of I2 in terms of I1. Then from the first equation itself, we'll be able to solve this question, right? So now if I see this second and fourth equation, second is this one, this equation, and fourth is this one, right? So if I put the value of I4 minus I3 from the second equation into this fourth equation, I'll be getting this part here, and from this I2 will be equal to I1 by 2, and here our work is actually over. So I'll be just substituting the value of I2 in equation number 1. So I2 will be I1 by 2. So I1 minus I1 by 2. I1 minus I1 by 2 will be equal to this much. And so of course I1 will be equal to this much. So again, this is a sinusoidal function, and we can see here that the maximum value of current or current amplitude part is this much. So maximum value of current will be 2V naught by R.